to Eastenders Weekly, your weekly podcast all about Eastenders. This week we'll be discussing episodes that aired between the 13th and the 17th of August. Now my head's all in a bit of a spin this week. We've watched a lot of episodes of Eastenders.
We've watched.
We've gone
so
through
much.
time.
We have. We've travelled forward and back. We're kind of mixing up stories from the past into the present. And also we've been very busy because we've recorded an interview with the Custard TV as well, which we talked about the Kate Oates placement. Yes. So that was nice. So give that a listen. Just a quick plug to the Custard TV. Yeah. Give that a listen. We're at the beginning of the show.
We want them to have their highest ratings because we appeared on it. So
I'm not sure that would be the case, but it'd be nice to think. Dream. Nice to think.
But yeah, we've gone from 1985 to 2017.
Kicking and screaming into the future.
And because obviously they're playing the classic episodes on Drama Channel at the moment. So we're catching up with all our old friends.
Yes.
Which we'll be talking about later because we need a few things to compare to.
Well, yes,
to recent.
It's funny having watched the older episodes. We can now obviously we've only watched 2 weeks worth, but having watched them, we've kind of it's easier to compare.
With a few things.
A few comparables. But another quick plug, if you haven't listened to it already, our August extra episode, we watched the first episode while we talk about it on the podcast. So
it's like Gogglebox, but
it is, but better.
Audio box.
Audio box. Oh, look at that. Coin that term.
It's a new podcast for us. Write that down quick. So we're going to start off this week's load of storylines. I mean, there's been a lot of sex this week.
Well,
it's all
unfrequented love and people who love each other and then don't know what to do.
So yeah, we're starting with the real romance of Max and Rainie and their fake or not so fake marriage.
No, their marriage.
Sure.
Yeah, their marriage. It's probably the most complicated non-marriage
I know
in the history of mankind.
And yeah, again, my love for Rainie is going up and down. It's up again this week because I've quite enjoyed her. But I'm sure next week it'll be down again.
Oh, I liked Rainie this week.
So,
I've liked Rainie the past few weeks.
Yeah, so let's go through what she has been up to. So she is kind of bragging in front of Mel and Jack about their amazing sex life.
Yes, Rainie is saying that her and Max are having the best sex life you can ever think about, and it's undescribable how great it is.
She keeps saying how boring Jack must be in bed with Mel.
I mean, she senses that there's trouble between Jack and Mel, and is kind of like all good ex-heroin drug addicts, kind of poke it with a stick and kind of continue to stir it between them.
I bet Jack is really meh.
What, Jack and Mel?
Yeah.
I reckon Jack's a very much, one position, one hit wonder, to be honest with you. I mean, that night of lust that they had a few months ago, which we were unfortunately
and then Mel woke up and she was really
yeah,
I gotta go now.
don't tell Hunter. Leave.
Oh, bless him. Poor Max. I mean, they're on and off this week, but we're focusing on Max and Rainie at the moment. So Rainie sort of put that in Mel's mind about how great their sex life is, but she sort of sees that Max has downloaded an app on his phone because he keeps forgetting his phone this week twice.
Yes, he's not very good. I mean, I hate it when programs, not just EastEnders, but any program does the story where they leave the house without their phone. Very rarely do I ever leave the house without my phone.
Especially twice in the same week.
It's attached to me. It's always in my pocket somewhere.
It's all for plot devices.
But the app is called Wedded Secret. So it's for married people who want to play away.
Why is he just on a normal app?
Well, why is he doing it at all? Is the question. And the answer is, of course, because Max hasn't had it for a while, and a quick 1-2 in the bathroom isn't good enough for Max.
This is so disgusting.
He needs the human contact
all
from
these
another
things
lady.
They keep talking about is really gross. He's like, I'm pumped up for months. I need to release. Yeah. Like, ugh. Do I need to hear this? So gross. So there's this app which is for non-strings fun.
Yes. And
but for married people.
For married people.
Obviously in a rubbish marriage.
Yes.
Someone like Mel, she should be on there, shouldn't she?
Max hasn't really thought past, as usual, his own appendage, and basically just, like you say, wants to get one away just so he can feel like his old self again, so he can think straight. He actually uses that as well. He said, I need to think straight. So I need to get it out of me, out of my system.
Oh, it's disgusting. So Rainie sort of plays him at his own game and decides to download the app as well.
Yes.
And
she starts a profile too.
Because all the women on there are gross. So she thinks she's going to be top of the picking.
Although she found one and she said she could turn for.
She could.
So she tried to hook up Max with this one. Max at first is a bit dismissive and like, no, Rainie, stop it, Rainie. But eventually Max likes the idea, especially when Rainie kind of helps him along with setting up the date by buying him. I mean, what is Rainie's idea of a perfect date? Because buying him a box of condoms and some red silk boxers, to me, doesn't really shout out class.
That's what she wants. I mean, she suggested to him maybe we should just do it. She's a professional at this.
Or an ex-professional.
So why not? And he nearly agrees to it, and then the date sort of says agrees to his date, so he ditches her like last minute.
Max starts to doubt himself, doesn't he? He starts to doubt his own amazingness. Really? Because, only Max thinks... Max has the highest opinion of Max, and Max doesn't really understand why a woman would ever resist him. But this woman, the one that could turn Rainie, had possibly resisted Max's online charm. But no, alas, he started talking to her, and then the next morning he's whistling.
I know. I thought he'd already been on the date, by the way. He was so happy in the morning.
They've been talking all night. They've been chatting.
I bet they have.
By message though, not real conversation, just a chat here and a chat there.
Yeah, he was very happy. So Rainie has a great big plan, which was quite funny, to put loads of laxative in his coffee so he can't go on his date.
Yes, because she Amy had the night before had a bit of an upset tummy, and so the light bulb lit in her head, and she thought, "Oh, hang on, this
will stop him.
This will stop him." Because Rainie's starting to get a little bit jealous. At first, she kind of planted the idea of, "Oh, well, I'll help you, relieve yourself," as just a kind of a way of.
Could you stop saying that, please? I've heard enough of it this week.
But she was quite rightly pointed out that if someone should catch him seeing another woman or going out with another woman, then this whole Baby Abby trademark deal is going to fall through very quickly.
So, they're not being that careful because Billy sees Max with a prostitute later. So
that's a bit later
weird,
on because Rainie mistakenly mixes the two coffee cups up.
We all knew that was coming.
But it
was so obvious, like the way it was all planning out.
Yes,
and she should have worn bright red lipstick because then she would have seen which drink she drunk from. She wouldn't have got them mixed up then.
Well, no, that's true. Well, but she also put coffee in her... coffee. Of course, sugar. She put coffee. She put sugar in her coffee. So again, is that not something she should have spotted when she was drinking her own coffee?
Maybe her taste buds are a bit broken from her past.
Her dangerous
past.
Things. But Max even points it out. He says, later, he says, next time, don't put coffee in my sugar in my coffee.
Told her 5 minutes earlier.
Well, he wasn't to know her
ruse. She guzzled hers down, didn't she?
Max certainly would like her to.
So she ends up with the bad tummy. And they're out of bog roll as well, which I noticed.
Well, she kept eyeing up when they're in the office. She went out to buy the 2 coffees and toilet paper because they'd run out. Bog roll.
Jack,
we're in London. Jack, talk more, Jack.
That made me feel sick as well. Like just Jack saying we're out of bog roll.
Yeah, but it wasn't for Jack. It was for
I
Amy.
know, but it's just disgusting.
Well, Jack's disgusting.
all the dialogue this week has made me feel sick.
Well, it's been very toilet humour in one way or another. Not even humour, just. It's been very much toilet talk.
Yeah. So Rainie's getting sweats in the car lot, and she's becoming more and more ill.
Yes, and she
slowly turns into like a frail old woman.
Well, she walks out as if she's like a cowboy that's come off the saddle after a day's riding. Yeah. She had her legs apart, and she was clutching onto her behind and kind of like ooh, running out the porter cabin.
So that sees her off for the rest of the day, and Max has a moment of
almost clarity, humanness,
where he decides not to go on the date and he should stay home because it might not look right because the wife's ill at home.
But I think this was the first step of Max realizing that perhaps he's got a good thing with Rainie and he shouldn't. Well, I mean,
I wouldn't trust her.
I mean, Max was.
Well, I won't trust Max either. So
I
hope she does do him over.
Yeah, they're as bad as one another. But Max, the whole week, the first part of the week, was adamant that he was going on this date with this married woman who he just wanted to basically have his end with, and he changed his mind. And it takes, to be fair for Max, his moral compass sometimes it gets the better of him because he does have sometimes. Yes, I think his overpowering being is always to be heading toward the sex. But sometimes I think he does have this clarity. Sometimes his head is cleared.
They should just do a storyline with him where he's a sex addict.
Well, I'm surprised they haven't done that yet, to be honest with you, because it's a bit of a it's a bit of a buzz.
Jack as well could be a sex addict. Or Stacey.
Well, no, 'cause
There's a whole group.
I don't think. I know.
And Sharon after this week, after those faces she's been pulling.
Stacey's not a sex addict.
No.
Stacey just gets bored quickly. And Jack, all Jack is concerned about is his family.
Blonde women. Blonde Mitchells.
Blonde Mitchells. Yeah.
And killed them off one by one.
But that's all he cares about. So he stays at home, much to Rainie's delight, because she gets quite upset before he is just about to walk out the door.
Mm-hmm.
And she cries, and then he comes back, and she quickly wipes away the tear, and she's much happier.
Yeah. But she messes it up the next day.
Well, then the next day, when
he forgets his phone again.
Max forgets the phone, goes to leave to go to the car lot. She quickly runs to her bag to take out the incriminating bottle of laxative.
It doesn't have to be incriminating, though. She could have just said, oh, I had a
bad tummy.
So I bought that.
Or she could have used the Amy excuse. She could have said, oh, because Amy was not very well, I felt a bit bunged up.
Yeah.
And
but she could have easily lied away. No matter how manipulative she is, she could have easily lied through that. But she didn't, and she told him. Maybe she's being honest.
Yeah, well, that's it. This is how her relationship.
Being truthful to Max.
Their relationship built on lies is now becoming more bridge of honesty.
And it lead us to a drunk Max, which we haven't seen in a while.
Well,
he's allowed in the Vic, apparently. Has he been in the Vic?
No, he's never been barred from the Vic.
Really? Well, even since all that stuff he did, they didn't bar him.
I mean, Mick and Linda, all the Carters were suspiciously
they
missing
weren't there, were they?
The whole episode.
But we haven't seen Mick and we haven't seen Max in the Vic in quite a while.
No, I don't think he's been barred from there though. I don't think he's gone quite
he should have
far.
been.
Hayley's been barred. Hayley is barred, and she still walked into the Vic this week.
That's true.
Yeah.
Well, once Mick and Linda are away, it all goes to rise.
They've already had a holiday. They had a holiday last week, and they go off again.
Although it's quite nice having a little break from Stuart. We said this last week.
I think a break from the Carters was very welcome by a lot of people.
It was.
If you read on Twitter.
So Max is getting drunk in the Vic, and an old face, well, not an old face, a new face appears of Jessica's back in a red dress.
Yeah, it's nice to see Jessica again.
Now, why do you think she's back? Has Rainie put her up to it?
Which Rainie must have spoken to her. I don't think it was to convince Max.
Do you not?
No, I don't think. I genuinely think that there's no. I don't think Rainie is doing this for the gain of trying to manipulate Max anymore. I genuinely think that she has fallen for Max.
Oh God, silly girl.
But I think Rainie liked Max even like when he was still with Tanya. I think in the early days that Rainie still had a bit of a thing for Max even then. But only time will tell. So yes,
yeah, Jessica's sort of talking to him and saying how he'd be lucky to have her. She's packing her bags and stuff, and
she'll stick by you through thick and thin. Yeah. If you want a true friend, she's the one. If she won't just like you because she's friendly or polite or anything like that. She'll only be your friend if she wants to be your friend.
I mean, Jessica was doing this, and it all seemed quite like a nice thing, but she still demanded to be paid for her time with Max, which makes me wonder: did Rainie put her up to this and pay her to do, and then she went to talk to Max and got a bit more money out of it?
I just think Jessica's very easily able to, turn men
manipulate
to mould.
Putty.
It's her job, isn't it?
Yeah. And we saw Billy looking over.
Yes, Billy had no business to put his nose into it.
Because Billy automatically must think that Max has slept with Jessica, even though last week the same situation happened with Billy.
Same situation happened to Billy. Billy had to quickly explain himself to Rainie. So surely, I was really angry about that.
Jumped to conclusion.
I know. It's like, why did Billy do that? That was really ridiculous.
So we then round off the week with Max. I'm assuming he's still drunk. He's still drunk at this point.
He is still drunk when Jack comes in and has a go at him.
Oh yeah,
because Jack just thinks that if he snaps his fingers, the world must obey.
I know. He's been going on all week about how the kids come first. Kids.
Yeah,
and he goes into the Vic and he's like, "Do you get my text about babysitting?"
Yeah, I know. The kids are coming second now.
So if Max hasn't replied, maybe Max isn't babysitting Jack.
Or Max isn't interested. Jack's another one of those that is only if it benefits him will he care. Otherwise, he'll just shout at you loudly or sarcastically kind of dismiss you and then walk off. Anyway, we always have feelings about Jack. This is about Max and Rainie.
Yeah, Rainie said something this week about the Branning brothers and how she doesn't know they're both idiots and don't. And it's like Jim's got a lot of explaining to do here.
He really has.
Not the best father, old Jim. Good grandfather, bad father.
But he got better when he was with Dot. Dot makes people better people.
Yeah. It's really hard to imagine Jim being horrible.
I know.
He was so lovely.
Because even when he joined the soap, he was never particularly malicious.
And everyone, all the sons and daughters hated him. It's like, can't imagine.
Well, especially Max. He gave Max the hardest time.
And Carol didn't like him.
Yeah.
I wonder how Carol's trip around Italy's going.
Yeah, on a motorcycle.
She ran out of gas. Yeah.
Hopefully she brought some money with her.
Yeah.
Her coin purse.
The actress said recently she has no plans to go back. Just letting everyone know.
I can't say I'll be too fussed with Carol.
No.
It's funny how many actors came out the woodwork when the Katie Oates story came out.
I'm free.
Yeah. The ones that were like, well, I'm a jobbing actor.
Maybe she said she won't come back so she can get a bit more money to come back.
The guy who plays Pete Bill said, even though he's dead.
Oh yeah.
He said on TV this week that he'd be happy to make a return as Pete Bill. I mean, he was killed off screen, so
well, I've got quite the Bills have all been killed off screen.
So they can all come back.
It's really weird.
However, another
Cindy Bill was killed off screen. Kathy Bill, Peter Bill.
Cindy went to
Mark was dead off screen.
Mark isn't a Bill. He's a Fowler.
Yeah, but the Fowlers and Bills are like intertwined.
They're one.
But it's just really weird how they're all killed off screen. But that's another topic. Anyway, we've got to get down to the climax of the storyline.
Pun intended.
Of Max and Rainie in the car lot. She's gone out on in this sports car with this hunky man, and she's got like a thing over her head.
Oh yeah,
1950s. She looks all
sexy. Like a Cadillac.
And Max is getting jealous again.
What are you talking about my wife? He says to Billy when Billy encounters him about the whole meeting with Jessica, but that's neither here nor there really.
And they end up kissing. Rainie says no. And I thought, so now she feels like she's got the power, but then she just locks the door and then away they go.
Well, the desk got cleared.
I know, that's so over the top. They always throw stuff. Normally it's in Jack's living room. His living room gets thrown about everywhere. But he broke all that paperwork and invoices.
It's a passion, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, well, no wonder they can't get the prices right for the cars. All the prices flying off everywhere and pots of plants going everywhere. So Max and Rainie, are they now together? Well, or is that just a one release?
I mean,
as they put it. That's what they said.
The euphemisms we've used in this piece.
That's what she said. He said it was a release for you, I could tell. And she said, no, you've been bottling it up for months.
God. And he went pop. Yes. I mean, I wonder, without sounding too crude, I wonder how long it lasted. It must
there was like one short scene in between, I think, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Like Sharon walking across the road. And then he was
sneezing.
He was finished.
I mean, she did say that it's Baby Abby that matters in this whole situation. Baby Abby. TM. And Max, I think it's almost a foregone conclusion that next week or the following week, Max and Rainie will then continue there. It was a mistake. I didn't mean to do it. I didn't want to do it. You made me. You put laxatives in my coffee. And there'll be all kinds of rightness again. So I don't think it will last very long.
That's been a fun high week for me for Rainie. So next week she will do something to annoy me next week. Because that's what happens. So a few little comments on Twitter. We've got Maria says, let's hope Max doesn't get cold feet now he's had his wicked way with Rainie. She'll be devastated.
Well,
Ronnie Mitchell, R.I.P. She says, are Max and Rainie genuinely in love or not?
Well, that's the funny thing, isn't it? Is it lust or is it is it still in Max's head that this is an arrangement and
I think
it would
it's
work?
more Rainie than Max at the moment.
It's more Rainie than Max. So is Max kind of doing it knowing that this would make Rainie more submissive to... Yeah, we'll see.
He will. Hez.
Was his Twitter?
Yeah.
What, at Hez?
Yeah. Well, it's at Hez _CFC67.
That's one of those username. You put your name in and it suggested a username for you.
They were so random to begin with, but I love Max and Rainie. Their banter is just brilliant. And then X says, I'm actually rooting for Max and Rainie now. You can see they've gradually fallen for each other. So there's a few people in support of Max and Rainie's.
I'd rather they work together than apart, because it was getting so boring that they kept finding reasons for why they it's an arrangement, it's all about the money. Blah. That was getting a bit boring. I'd rather that they actually... it'd be interesting actually if they do go with this and they make it an actual proper relationship between them.
Don't know, that wouldn't be a bit toxic. I'm still
waiting. But that's why it'd be good.
I'm still rooting for Rainie to double cross him right at the end.
Christmas.
I just want Max to be sad.
Well, no one wants the end. I don't think, even if he's with Rainie, Max will never be happy.
No.
Max is just not a happy person.
So next on the agenda is a really weird storyline this week, which we can't quite get our heads around.
Well, it confused us because we thought we had...
The Ted storyline where he's
getting
messages from beyond the grave.
Yeah.
From a woman who didn't know she was dying.
That's the first thing. So you and I, we discussed it, didn't we? We were like, well... If she didn't know she was going to die.
She died in her sleep randomly. She left a note for Ted to say dinner's in the oven. So she didn't know she was dying.
Well, no, of course, yeah, exactly.
I mean, did she? But then, this is it. So then you and I surmised, or perhaps then Bernie and Patrick, because
they were doing some suspicious like faces at each other. Because Bernie went to Patrick, didn't she?
Well, Ted's depressed in his flat, and Bernie notices that he's not really done much, and so Bernie visits Patrick at the allotment and says it's time.
Yeah.
So you would think
that made us think, oh, did Patrick put the bottle in the dirt and then say, oh, come to the allotment and dig at this spot?
There's some new broccoli.
Which in a way it was really horrible and creepy, like writing and pretending to write a note from like your friend's dead wife.
Yeah.
But then he'd recognise the handwriting.
Well, this is another thing we couldn't quite work out. It was the handwriting. Surely, having lived with Joyce all this time, he would recognise if someone's just written a note in a bottle for him.
But the more and more this went on, there was more and more notes. There was like a note in his suit that was at the dry cleaners.
Well, it was a treasure hunt. So the first note...
Oh, you actually got them written down, have you?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God.
The first note read, "You must play their song before he gets sad for too long." So and also the clues start off quite short and snappy and punchy. But then they get ridiculous and a bit more convoluted as time
Joyce
goes on.
Joyce was obviously running out of ideas towards the end.
So
yeah, they played a record that was played at her funeral.
That was
which that information could have been sourced from Bernie or Patrick, I guess. They would have known about the song.
Well, they all, of course, they would, because they were at the funeral,
that's fine.
And he made a speech at the funeral where he raised a glass to Joyce, saying, "Oh, this is a song we used to listen to when we were younger. Yeah. It was on the jukebox at the milk bar."
Moment, our theory of them doing it kind of works still. So the next note.
So yeah, then we carried on to the next one where he sees on the back of a business card in the record, "Wear your best brown, not your blue, and you will find another clue." Now at this point, we learnt that Joyce loved parlour games. And that she liked a good time. Now, there was never any indication ever when Joyce was on the square that Joyce liked parlour games.
There was no other indication that Joyce was even on the square.
Yeah. Other than as when she died, when people were saying, "Oh, I remember Joyce. She used to turn up my trousers for me, or she used to sew in a badge on my shirt.
She prepaid all these magazines for you, Ted."
Yeah. Here you go, Ted. What? These are for you. You might as well have them. You paid. Joyce had paid for them.
So, the second clue, there was like. It was like a handkerchief. There was a note written on a handkerchief in a suit.
Well, he couldn't find his brown suit. He looked everywhere.
Exactly,
he made quite a mess, and he went and then stormed out the bedroom.
But that was in the laundrette. So again, Bernadette,
which Bernie knew.
Yeah, so Bernadette could have planted that with Patrick. So that's the second clue they could have done.
Yes,
but it's still really weird.
So Ted's still resilient if ever he wants to carry on playing this game. You know, this game.
Let her rest in peace.
Just let us all rest in peace. So the third clue, which is written on the handkerchief, said, "To lead to your fate, take Joni on a date." So we now know that, you know.
I mean, we mentioned this a few weeks ago when Ted was last on it, because Joni like appeared randomly in one episode, didn't she? Just to say like goodbye or whatever. And we said it's really weird. We forgot about her, and she actually bothered to come back.
We were also surprised to see Joni back because she's been moonlighting on another soap.
I know. So she's been in Corrie.
She has. So we were a bit surprised to see her, to be honest with you. I was surprised there was a conflict of interest in that situation.
Busy woman.
So yeah, Ted's still resisting wanting to meet Joni, but again, Bernie and Patrick are pushing it. They're encouraging him to carry on, making you think that this is their little game to somehow there's going to be this ultimate goal. Perhaps it's going to have a brown envelope of money, and Patrick's like, "Yeah, man, I found the money that I gave you originally."
But no, nothing that interesting.
No. So, but Ted's
just
quite
miserable Ted.
Miserable Ted with miserable Joni. They could have had a nice conversation, but Ted just decided.
Hate each other.
Well, Ted decided to tell her that he was only nice to her because of Joyce. Joni hit back though with a bit of sass and said, "Well, you're always a milestone round Joyce's neck, so I always thought you were a bit of a prat too."
The only good thing was his marrows.
Apparently she had good marrows, and we also learnt that Ted was a TV repairman. So we all thought that he was fought for the country, then got shell-shocked and came back and has never worked. Has always lived in the flats looking over the square.
Got to make a living.
Well, yes, I suppose they do. But anyway,
so yeah, Joni had like an envelope from Joyce.
Well, she then says it's from Joyce asked me to read this to you. So now we're thinking, well, then Bernie... So did Joyce give Bernie and Patrick the initial clue to give to him?
Maybe
because when Joni...
Why has Joyce done all this? It's so weird.
But also, why? How did Joyce know that her?
I don't know. Was it just in case? Did she have like a feeling? I might die. I feel a bit iffy today.
I mean, she was always I've got a bit of a sniffle. I just need to give you this clue, just to if you ever feel down. But then also, why didn't they not start this whole charade? After her death, because they all knew Ted was feeling a bit bad.
It's time.
It's time. let's set off the firework.
It's summer and we need a storyline. It's time.
Maybe that's what the writers did in the writers' room. It's like, it's time for the Ted storyline. It's time. So Joni does repeat that Joyce loves a good party game. Which Ted reacted to, like rolled his eyes and smiled. So again, a Joyce we never saw. I'd love to see Joyce play a bit of like Connect 4 or charades, pick up sticks.
But she didn't make it to Christmas, did she? So.
we never got to see her at Christmas either. Sad times. So the last clue that we've ended the week on, which means
is the last one as well. Joyce, it says it's the last.
But Patrick did say not another clue. Which we all felt at this point. Patrick spoke for all of us.
Yes.
We've reached the end. You know what you've got to do. Don't be scared. She gave up rhyming at this point. she didn't know what to do.
Too tricky.
It was too much. So Ted screwed up the puzzle, the clue, and an envelope with his name on, put it in his pocket, and stormed out the pub. And that is that for now.
So exciting.
I tell you what, I was on tenterhooks the whole time.
So I assume we see the outcome of these clues next week. I hope we don't have to wait too many weeks for it.
Can you imagine if they make you wait a whole week for the next?
But yeah, what a minx Joyce is.
Well, and also hopefully it might explain how Joyce knew this was going to be happening. I mean, I don't know, but and I suppose it's a bit preemptive, but I'm suspecting it's going to be something to do because also he spoke to Alan this week. He spoke to his son for the first
time in Australia. Yes.
Yeah. So I'm presuming it's going to be something because the first clue led to him to speak to Alan, not through the clue, just through his own judgment. So I'm presuming it's going to be something to do with him going away to see Alan. So Ted's going to be gone for another month or so.
If he goes to Australia, he probably just won't come back. I doubt.
No, because the actor's still on contract with them. He's still with them.
Well, so's Dot.
Where is Dot? Answers on a postcard, kids. Yeah.
Maybe she helped write the clues. So he's got a few comments on Twitter. So we got Helen who said, oh, here we go. Did Ted's wife, and us for that matter, even though she was going to die? No. And Nikki says, so confused with these notes with Ted. Like, how can they actually be from Joyce? Which is a question we all ask. And we also have like another little topic, which is what we were talking about earlier in the show, because someone was talking to us online who was King of Wing. Because we were talking about how we've been watching the old episodes of EastEnders.
Yes.
And like all the original characters were like, they're all, you know, there's a range of ages in the characters and there's older characters. But the difference is the older characters back then are written really well. They have loads of life in them.
Yeah.
They're like proper characters. And also this guy said, it's funny how Patrick is written so poorly. Because there's the guy in the original who's called Tony Carpenter, who's a black man similar to Patrick. And he's written so much better and more realistic than Patrick. And this was in the 80s.
Yeah. I mean, I suppose Tony Carpenter was born in London while Patrick was born in Trinidad. So I suppose there's always going to be that kind of ethnic difference.
But there's such a difference, like watching like Lou Bill and Ethel and
well, no, I agree with you on
things
that.
like that. They were so fun and you actually enjoyed watching them. And then we sit in here with Ted, Joyce
and Bernie, who's an honourable older lady.
Yeah. And Masood's aunt and uncle who were brought in, but they've just not done anything.
We said that they had a real knack also of using the older characters to kind of recap and comment, almost as if
like sitting over a cup of coffee, like talking about all what's going on the square, aren't they? And they're gossiping and
Ethel's reading their tea leaves,
yeah,
and they're talking about. I must admit, there's a lot of times when they're kind of retrospectively looking into the past, but they talk about what's actually happening on the square, and
like it'd be good if you had like I don't know Dot and Ashad having a cup of like talking about
without
what Max and Rainie are up to or something.
Yeah, because whenever there's Dot or whenever there's an older character and there's an actual scene where it's been written with the older character in mind, it's always a really depressing scene.
Yeah,
it's always something they're sad about.
They're sad about being old or they're lonely.
Yeah. Well, in the episodes we've been watching on the classic EastEnders on UK TV drama, in case you guys want to watch it, they're talking really more with much more optimism and much more excitement, and like
they're funny, and they got loads of life in. They're not just old people.
They're going out to bingo. And they've won the bingo.
And they go to the Vic and get drunk, and they gossip, and it's so much more fun. And
Ethel's amazing. Like we've got a new love for Ethel. Ethel's just fantastic.
I can't wait to watch her special episode where she dies.
Oh, that's ages away.
I know, but
that's when Dot. That's the euthanasia plot when Dot loses her mind and pushes over a shelf in a shop.
But so yeah, I quite all these elder characters. You do need them in the show.
Don't make them background characters. Make them involved. Make them part of the show.
And not all to be depressed.
No, of course they're not. Just because they're old
and sad.
Yeah, just because they're old doesn't mean they're going to be that way. I know a lot of elderly people who live near us, and they're really lively and friendly. make them a rounded character.
So yeah, it's just quite an interesting thing, like seeing 30 years apart, but how they're much more fresher and much more character to them. So we thought that was an interesting point. So
talking of old characters, I think it's time we delve into the past of another one.
Going back to this.
It's time for I'm Doing This Now.
Just do this now.
So it's time again. It's time to jump back into the soap's past, choose a character, and learn what the actor or actress is up to on this week's I'm Doing This Now. Now, on this episode, we look at an actor who might be better known for being on Hollyoaks. But it might surprise you that he also did 2 short stints on The Square. Yes, some of you may have guessed it's Danny Pennant, who was played by Gary Lucy from September 27th, 2012 until the 14th of February, 2014.
My goodness.
So Danny first came into the soap when he had a meal with his city banker colleagues at the Argy Bargy.
Oh, God.
I know, the Indian... I wish they'd do something with that building, the Argy Bargy.
It's so decrepit.
It's just got graffiti on it. It's always got a to let sign on the top
You think Jagger would break in and set up shop?
Who says he has? Well, set up his drug ring. At the time, it was run by Saeed and the Ahmed family. After having a conversation with Saeed, they both decide to invest money, which Saeed had borrowed from Zainab, his mother. This agreement makes the pair very close, and outside of R&Rs, after Danny chases Saeed, they get closer. Saeed tries to resist and insists this is bad, but Danny retorts with, "But it feels so good." And they kiss. I watched the scene. It's really like...
Is Christian with Saeed at this point?
It's a few weeks before they actually get married.
Oh, God. Saeed.
I know. It's because, Saeed just came out. He needed to play the field a little bit.
Gary Lucy was on the square.
Didn't have much time.
Come on.
Just go on. So Saeed's father Masood catches them, and a few nights later, when Saeed ducks out of his and Christian's stag party to meet Danny, Masood confronts the pair and questions why Saeed would hurt Christian if he truly loved him. I mean, there's also questions in that. There's questions in that scene by Masood whether he's actually gay as well. He's like, well, if you're cheating on Christian, then are you actually gay? It's a really interesting scene. So Masood hadn't quite accepted it just still yet.
Oh, right. Back when Masood was interesting.
Yeah. He wasn't opening the opening of Bloomin' Walford East, which has taken 5 months. However, the marriage goes ahead, and after the ceremony, Danny continued to message Saeed, insisting he owed him more money for the investment which had fallen through. Christian sees the messages and meets with Danny under the guise of Saeed. Danny lies to Christian and tells him that he had slept with Saeed. After a violent fight, Danny left, only to return a few months later in June 2013 to attend the opening of Ian Bill's new restaurant. So he was opening a new restaurant in 2013.
Did they invite him to Walford East? Is he one of the celebrities that have been invited?
Celebrities, what was it? Celebrities and a footballer?
And a rapper.
Oh, goodness. Still with the mischievous charm and enticing persona, Ian hoped that Danny would invest in his new venture, but Danny refused to help out of spite after Lauren Branning spilled a drink on him.
What? That sounds really random.
Now, one of the people who did invest in... It's true. One of the people who did invest in Ian's new restaurant was Janine at the time.
Oh.
Now, an interesting tidbit, which is going off Danny a little bit, but I thought this was too interesting to not include. Ian was originally going to call the restaurant Ian Bill @ Le Square.
Le Square. So posh.
But Janine changed it to Scarlett's after her daughter, which she had with Michael Moon, who she later murdered.
This, I'm Doing This Now should be I'm Doing This Now.
Ian's restaurants. Well, Ian's restaurants, shouldn't it? It should be. No, I don't think it's the Argy Bargy.
Oh, right.
This is what's now became Bill's and is now Walford East.
Was Scarlett's.
Oh, Scarlett's. You're quite, yes, but first of all called Scarlett's.
Scarlett's sounds like a strip club.
But it's as I said, it's her daughter. It's Janine's daughter that she had.
Yeah, but it sounds like a strip club.
Maybe Jessica could open a.
Yeah. Jessica and Janine, they're best friends.
Jessica's best friends with Rainie, I think you would find.
I know, but they could be friends.
Well, if Janine came back, if the dream came alive.
Yeah, she could open up a strip club in Walford. Rainie can manage.
I'd like that, actually.
Rainie can manage it and Jessica can work there.
Not a strip job. Not like a classy, like something Mel and Sharon would open. But I'd like that, actually, if they opened something like that in the soap. Yeah. While starting a new career as an estate agent, Danny starts a rivalry with Lucy Bill, constantly trying to outsell one another. Lucy discovers Danny is homeless, but they're all fired by Janine after she wants to free some money to buy the Vic. Do you know who bought the Vic, though, in the end?
When was this?
2013.
Ronnie and No.
No.
Wait. I can't think.
More obvious than you think.
Oh, the Carters.
Yeah.
Oh, right, yeah.
The Carters. This is when the Carters were introduced.
They handed over money. Cash in hand.
Cash in hand. Danny becomes involved with Lucy, but also starts flirting with Johnny Carter and stalks him on internet dating sites under the pseudonym Walford Wanderer.
I can't remember this.
Oh, I can.
Oh.
That's not that it matters.
Must have been blocked from my mind.
It probably was, because you can tell when the storyline, if someone's slowly getting eked out when they start doing having an affair storyline. Lucy and Danny decide to start their own estate agency and buy a flat together. And unable to keep it to himself, Johnny tells Lucy. Leaving her heartbroken, she throws the money that Danny had given her out of the window. Danny rushes outside to collect as much money as he can from the street and leaves Lucy alone after she threatens to report him to the police for embezzlement. Danny leaves for Marbella to live for the rest of his life just before Lucy's death, so he's not seen as part of the investigation.
I was going to say, it's funny he wasn't a suspect.
No, he left just before she was...
Yeah. You would have thought they would have used him as a bit of a red herring, though. It's like an easy plot device, that, as a red herring.
True, but...
There was lots of people in
there
the
was
mix
lots of
anyway.
red herrings, wasn't there? I don't think you needed another one just to add to the mix. So Gary Lucy, I'm sure a lot of people probably know what Gary Lucy has been up to now, because he's quite in the UK, he's quite well known. But let's have a quick look at what he's been up to since leaving Walford. So after finishing on the soap, Gary played Val Kildare in an episode called Deadfall from the 29th season of Casualty. They always get a Casualty.
I know,
yeah.
it's like their next thing.
It's like the logical step. Casualty, Holby City, Doctors. He also returned to Hollyoaks to reprise his role as Luke Morgan, which he told Digital Spy that, now I'm back on set, it's an absolute joy. He will soon be taking a break to make a stage debut, but let's just talk a little bit further into what he's been doing outside of stage and screen. So Lucy is married to actress Natasha Gray, and he has 3 children, his son Elvis and his 2 daughters India and Sadie. He'd recently posted on social media a picture of his grandmother Lily in an effort to show awareness of Alzheimer's and dementia charities, because unfortunately she has that disease. Gary was also in the papers earlier this year, having been caught on a messy night out in Liverpool.
Jesse Wallace with him?
No, sadly not. Photographs showed him spending hundreds of pounds on vodka for himself and other dwellers of the nightclub.
How dare he?
when he was quite drunk, he was also licking their faces and pouring drinks into their mouths and then kind of making them spit it back into his. This happened quite soon after he rejoined Hollyoaks, and then he decided to take a break. So I wondered if there was a bit of a...
He's still in Hollyoaks now, though, because he was on it the other day, because I had to watch
yeah.
Oh, it was so difficult to watch, but he was in it.
Hollyoaks. Oh, did I catch a bit as well?
Yes.
There was the lady in the wheelchair. She was smuggling drugs.
Yeah. And that man murdered some... I don't know what's happened.
Oh,
It was
anyway,
awful, though.
This
So
isn't
Gary
this
Lucy
isn't about
was in
Hollyoaks.
it.
Lucy, yes. So, as I alluded to earlier, Gary is taking a break from Hollyoaks to star in a new UK tour of The Full Monty, having the star role as Gaz. So if you want to see Gary Lucy with not much
all of him on.
that's it.
He used to be in Dream Boys as well, so people
did he?
might have already seen all of him.
Yeah, but if you've seen it once, you might want to see it again.
Oh, yeah, quite.
All the dates, because it's a tour, obviously. They've just announced all the dates of where they'll be going, but you can find them on the website fullmontyplay.com. You can also go to Twitter at fullmontyplay, and if you'd like to follow Gary Lucy, you can follow him on Twitter at Gary_Lucy. As always, you can find the links to all the productions mentioned in the show notes, which just so happens to also have our Twitter, which is at Eastenders Week, Instagram at Eastenders Weekly Podcast, our Facebook link, and email eastendersweekly@gmail.com. As always, do get in touch. It's great to hear from you, and we always like to read your tweets or messages on the podcast. And that was this week's I'm Doing This Now.
Just do this now.
Back on the square, and we've got the big storyline.
This is the big storyline.
Dubbed as, by some, Sharon Week.
Dubbed by others as Sharon Gate 2018.
Yes. Although, for Sharon Week, she wasn't really in it the first half of the week.
I know. It was
more Keanu Week.
Maybe Sharon Friday? Because really Friday was her
Sharon
strong.
Friday special. 2 for 1. So we begin the week with Keanu because he's obviously been beaten up from last week. He won't tell his family why he's upset.
Well, he's very frustrated because they're all pushing him as well. So Bernie's pushing him, saying, "What's wrong with your eye? Look at your eye."
Someone really pushes him at the end of the episode.
Yes, absolutely. Keegan is also winding him up, which I thought was a bit of a poor show.
And Bernie laughs at him for having a black eye.
I mean, they have just gotten over a knife crime storyline where they're all affected by it. So to then laugh at Keanu for having a black eye, I thought was a bit poor taste.
Well, if you don't laugh, you'll cry.
That's true.
So maybe that's how they're coping. Their coping mechanism in their families to just have bants.
Bants.
Bernie Bants.
That should be a
game.
That's a okay. Write that
Bernie
one down.
Bants.
Bernie Bants.
Hashtag Tiffany. So they're being quite mean to Keanu. Everyone's mean to Keanu all the time. Poor Keanu.
Yes. Well, he's not very happy, so he punches the door and storms off.
Mm.
Which worries Karen a little bit.
Yeah. Because she's seeing his real dad in him.
She is. And at first she thinks, well, maybe it was just a bit of a sporadic phase, something that's just happened.
But we learn quite a lot about his dad throughout this episode. And they do talk to each other about it in the end. Well, because she says how long he's been in prison to Keegan, doesn't he?
Keegan has always kept it to himself, but he's always kind of known that...
and he's dropped a few hints by accident, like a few weeks, like saying stuff about Keegan's dad.
Yeah,
Keanu's
but nothing's
dad.
ever been picked up. But until now, where he's sitting down after he visits Keanu at the garage with a bacon sandwich, because that's all Keanu eats, sandwiches.
Well, if you want a body like Keanu's,
you just eat bacon.
You eat bacon sandwich and donuts.
And get other people to buy it for you. And Keegan kind of drops that, his father was a bit violent, and maybe Karen is worried that he's going the same way.
But no one's meant to know anything about his dad. So
Keanu's not meant to know anything about his dad. Karen's always kept it away from Keanu. Because Keanu's a much more sensitive person. She even says that. She says, if it was you, Keegan, I'd probably tell you because you can handle things better than Keanu. I mean, we did learn...
sensitive Keanu.
He's very sensitive. And we have been learning over the past couple of weeks that it takes Keanu a little bit of time to register things. Take the first example when he was looking for the item for Phil.
Which time? The long wait?
The long wait,
right,
yeah. So it takes a few minutes for something to register. So imagine how overwhelmed Keanu's head is going to be. His head would explode if he knew the whole truth. But Karen takes it as an opportunity to perhaps tell him. But
they do have a chat about
slowly,
it. Yeah. So I wanted to talk about this chat and what was revealed, because we sort of had hints that it was like she was stabbed, but she said it was with a kitchen knife, and that she was put into she was in intensive care, but the kids didn't know because they were at her mum's at the time of the fight.
No, she was back with Mitch at this time.
Yeah, but the kids weren't at the house, they were with her mum's, so that's why the kids don't know she was in hospital. That's
right. I thought Mitch was looking after them.
No.
Okay.
And then she said that he had 12 years in prison. And then Keegan said, "Oh, that means he's out then."
Which she says he could be out.
Yeah,
but she's not sure.
She heard that he might be back inside. And I heard someone on Twitter say, "Could Johnny Allen be Keegan's dad? Because he was in prison."
Is Johnny Allen still in prison?
Oh, he died in prison.
Okay, but Johnny Allen went to prison. I suppose he was out of prison at the right time.
So I know. I'm not. I just thought it was an interesting. Put it out there.
Well, because Ruby's coming back.
Yeah.
So you think that might be so you find out that Ruby is
not
Keanu's...
what I think. It was someone on Twitter, but I haven't got there.
So Ruby would be Keanu's brother.
Ruby would be
A
Keanu's
sister.
sister.
sorry. I've just
Yeah.
changed the sex of
Like
Ruby.
half sister.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, that's like a theory that someone's husband had on Twitter. So just something to think about.
It's a theory.
It is. But I imagine if they're talking about Keanu's dad, I imagine he'd be alive, so they'd want to introduce him as a character to get.
I think that's the ultimate goal, isn't it? Yeah.
But yeah, we learned quite a bit more about his dad, which is quite nice and interesting. So obviously that's going to be a storyline in the future, and Karen's just worried that Keanu's slowly having the temper of his dad.
Yes, because he seems to lash out.
He's quite like violent when he goes for it, isn't he? The actor of Keanu, he's quite good.
Well, he every time he lashes out and suddenly gets violent. It's just a really quick, instant hothead, and then he calms down.
Again, yeah.
If it's something like Phil, when Phil's angry, it's a constant.
Yeah.
So when Phil's
It's a baseball bat in the U20.
yeah, but he's built. He doesn't need to be built up to it. It's similar that it's a switch, but once he's hit that switch, there's no stopping him, and it's a constant flat line.
And the moment Keanu has control whether to stop, doesn't he?
Keanu realizes what he does straight away, which we learnt with Hayley, because Hayley proper winds him up. I mean, she was being very irritating.
Yeah.
It doesn't justify what he did, throwing a spanner at her.
No, but she could go on and on and on. And
Well,
again,
she was getting a camera
wanting
out.
to take a photo of his black eyes.
Yeah, it was awful. She was taking a camera out. She was saying, "Come on, let's take a photo." You know, it's like,
Oh, he soon shut her up because he threw a wrench at her.
But then she screamed at him.
Oh,
She's like,
yeah.
no.
I thought that was really good. It was like another insight into Hayley, because she said, "I'm not ever going to let anyone do that to me or treat me like that."
Yes,
to hit me.
Because at first we thought that might be then maybe she had a bit of a shady past with that, but then we realised it was a friend
that was a really
of
good
hers.
scene, wasn't it? A bit later in the park where she explained.
Yes, so she basically explains that a friend of hers had a boyfriend who everyone thought was a nice guy. She was laughing with him, thinking that everything was okay with friends, but as soon as he got home, he beat her almost to death. And so she said she would never ever allow anyone to do that to her.
Yeah, and she won't. She
No.
fought back. She's 4 or 5 months pregnant, but she still yelled back at Keanu. She ain't scared, is she?
Well, no, yes, exactly. But Keanu again, because he apologises to Hayley by buying her flowers, and she dismisses it first of all, and he, kind of walks off, says sorry, wells up a little bit.
And that scene also we just talked about was really funny, because the woman who played Hayley had a really bad cold.
Oh yeah, they obviously
She
filmed
sounded
that.
like really bad.
Her voice had changed quite notably. That if she was,
Yeah, bless her.
yeah.
That was so funny. So and then this also gets Keanu to think about it, and he apologised to his mum by doing the ironing for her at
Yes.
the house, and
Yes.
he's like plastering the hole in the wall.
The hole in the wall he
so
made.
handy, isn't he, Keanu?
Well, he is. He knows everything, doesn't he? He knows mechanics.
Yeah,
he knows
mechanics,
plastering.
ironing, plumbing,
He's the man of your dreams.
Sharoning.
Mitchelling. I mean, he did get a bit violent again, and this was when Karen really started to. What you could see, Karen was worried that this was becoming a bit of a problem now, and because Karen had admitted to Keanu.
Sorry, I just remembered one of the gang members, but I'll talk about it in a minute.
Okay, because Karen had admitted to Keanu about his father. He's very conscious now that he doesn't want to be angry, like this violent person like his father. I mean, he referenced it to it a couple of times, or at least it's referenced in the show. The first time being when he's getting fish and chips, and he notices that one of the gang members, possibly Sticks, is giving like a duffel bag to this kid. He follows this kid, who then breaks into the garage, and he starts threatening him and pushes him
and
down.
he actually does push him into
the pit. But Hayley says to him that that guy deserved it. But you're not a violent person.
Yeah.
That guy deserved it.
That was funny. She just told the boys, like, "Are you dead? Get up, get up."
Yeah.
It was so funny.
Yeah, can you get up?
Like anyone else witnessing that would like react like really worried and scared and like shout, like scream at Keanu and run off. But Kaylee's like, "You dead or what? Get up!
Yeah.
Come on, get out!"
I mean,
go."
she's so funny.
She's a good
right hand
yeah,
woman for
I'd have her
Keanu, really.
in my gang.
Another thing, which isn't part of the story really, but it was noted, is that Hayley was quite blasé with just showing off her bump this week.
It's difficult to hide now. It's getting bigger, isn't it?
Yeah,
So she told Keanu.
But she told Keanu. She's told Keanu, but she hasn't told, other than Jean, who discovered, anyone else. So
that'll be very soon. It has to be because it's getting harder and harder to.
Well, that's what I mean.
disguise.
I'm sure the fallout of that is going to be happening soon, or at least maybe not the fallout of how she got pregnant,
Mm.
but or who got her pregnant, I should say. I mean, at the same time as all this is happening, Phil is a bit upset with the way that Sharon is kind of babying Dennis.
Parenting, yes.
Yes, and Dennis is overheard by Sharon to saying that he can get away with anything he likes because Sharon will let him. His mum, still treats him like a child, and he knows that he can push the right buttons to get away with things. He got a new mobile phone against Phil's wishes.
And he's gotten very cocky with this because he takes a photo of Louise.
Yes, in a face mask.
And we know Louise has a history of people recording her and taking photos of her on a bus crash. She didn't like that when Keegan did that. And they didn't like taking photos of her at the prom. So she doesn't like it. But Dennis said, doesn't matter. I'll just tell Mum you're lying and she'll believe me.
Yeah.
And Sharon's like listening behind the door.
Yeah, as she does.
With her new fringe.
And new white trainers. Which she likes to use to strut around she wants to get
She's
around quicker.
Rush.
She doesn't wear her heels anymore. She's got white trainers.
They were like brand new as well. There wasn't.
She still dresses to impress, but she wears her white trainers just to trot around a bit.
So there's this sort of parenting storyline going on with Dennis where obviously Sharon hears that, so she says to Phil, "Fine, we'll do it the Mitchell way, and you can do some parenting." So he takes Dennis off to the Archers, and they do a few chats with each other about how Sharon's a good mum.
I mean, again, this obviously the device here was to encourage this connection between Phil and Dennis, and to make Dennis understand that his mum ain't too bad.
She's been through a lot.
She's been through a lot.
She don't drink, does she?
Well, this is where it got a bit unravelled. I mean, there's a bit where he says that your mum just wants the best for you. Does she show up for you? Does she get drunk? Now. She does get drunk. He even says, does she hide drinking? Because that's what her mum used to do. And it's like, well, yes, she did. She did at Easter.
She did. In
a mug.
She encouraged Michelle to drink with her.
Yeah. But that Sharon was notably much more drunk that day.
She was. Are they going to slowly turn her into an Angie?
No, I don't think they will. I think that was something they considered when they did, as I say, Creamageddon at Easter. But I think that
she's got those little bits of traits of Ange, hasn't she? That she's obviously picked up
on
through the years.
Including
young men,
including flirting with younger men. But then we learned again from watching the classic episodes that Sharon has been a bit of a dirty flirt her whole life. She's a naughty
through and through.
Which obviously they're not her blood, her parents, but she's obviously picked up the traits.
Well, she's been brought up by them, hasn't she?
Which is something again Keanu says to Sharon later on. He says that I believe that you don't. He almost says you don't inherit your traits; you get them from the way you've been brought up. Because Sharon feels again maybe Keanu telling himself or hoping that for himself. But we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, just leading up to this was basically when the gang come back for Dennis because Phil stupidly leaves him to lock up because he wants to finish the music box for his mum.
I mean, that was ridiculous.
I know. And Dennis had been taunting them.
Yeah, before he walked in, he kind of put his hands up and was like, come on then, come on. And it's like, Dennis, why, Dennis?
So yeah, I mean, Jagger wasn't there, but Styx was head of this gang.
Styx is like the co-captain, isn't he? So if Jagger's not about, then you report to Styx.
And there's a new member. Of the team. There's like the one who I imagine what they did is brought her along in case Hayley was there. Like her and Hayley could fight it out.
Oh yeah, they could scratch each other's eyes.
But there was this funny girl there.
She was, without being horrible, although it does sound horrible, she was a bit sloth-like. She had, you can imagine, if they showed her hands, these long nails coming over her and she just kind of strolls forward.
So she was there recording all the incident of Dennis being abused.
Well, she kept saying, say cheese.
Yeah, millions of views.
Yeah. Well, they were upsetting him, weren't they, by saying that on social media.
And they wanted him to come with them, but Dennis stood his ground and kept saying no, to be fair to
I was
him.
pleased with Dennis at this point.
So he's hard Mitchell. Sharon's sort of running around the square trying to find where Dennis is.
Well, because she's upset with Phil for leaving him on his own.
Although Sharon leaves him later.
We'll get to that. And also, this is when Phil obviously is a bit angry with Sharon because he feels like he hasn't done the right thing, but he felt like he had done the right thing.
He said, why ask me to do my way of parenting if you don't like it?
If you don't like it. And also he said to her that Dennis Senior, Dennis's biological father, has been dead for a long time.
12 years now.
Yeah. And now I see him as my son too. And so that was quite a hard. This was like the old soft Phil, like the Phil we saw when he was first introduced to the soap. Like he was never the harder brother. It was always Grant who was like the hard one, and Phil always had the sensitivity, which is why Peggy
from his mum.
Exactly, which is why Peggy never. She always used Grant for the hard stuff, but for kind of talking about the father and how they both kind of were hurt by her husband and his father, and they always kind of bonded with that. And Peggy then also used to always use it against him. It's like, oh, if it was your brother here, he would have sorted it all out.
Yeah.
But obviously Phil has hardened as time has gone on, especially since Grant has left,
and since Peggy's
death, and since his new liver. Which Sharon again reminds him not to get too strenuous. I don't have a mobile defibrillator with me.
So yeah, that's basically what was going on. So she's going around the square trying to find Dennis. Yes. It doesn't look in the last place he was seen.
Well, she says, because someone does... But eventually she speaks to Honey, and Honey's getting a bit snotty because you can see Sharon's panicked, but Honey decides to ask her for some babysitting at some point.
No, Sharon actually said, yeah, that's fine, whatever.
Yeah.
And she took it really offensively.
Well, then she said, oh, am I distracting you? It's like, well, yes, you are. I'm looking for my son, who's more important than your carpets. Because Honey does say that at one point. She says, and I'm losing my carpets.
Yeah, she's not happy about this.
And she brings up about Jay being a sex offender. Now, poor game, Honey, because you supported Jay, and now you're using it as a point to say, well, look what's happening to me now. Look, I'm
also,
going
last week, Jay said to Billy, Honey won't want to live with me because of the sex offender, and Billy was like, no, it wasn't that. It was because of the drugs.
But obviously behind everyone's back.
She's so snooty, isn't she?
She's a proper snooty tooty, Honey. Anyway, their son,
Will,
tells Sharon that he's at the garage, and Sharon's like, no, he wouldn't be. He's not allowed at the... Of all the places he's not allowed on his own, the garage is the one he's not allowed on his own. So she just presumed he wouldn't be there.
Yeah, but surely she knew that's where Phil took him all day.
Well, I mean, I suppose Phil didn't say he's
Has Sharon
still
been
at
drinking?
the garage. Maybe.
Has Sharon had a bottle of wine? And that's why she's not in her heels, because she won't be able to walk.
It's wonder what blocked the sink, really. That's something we forgot to mention. The whole sink scene with Keanu and Sharon.
Yeah, that was before. So much has gone on. Well, yes, because the two storylines sort of interwoven with each other, didn't they? Because that was when Dennis was
first going to the Archers.
Yes, and Keanu was made to go round to fix her sink.
Yes, and
I mean, not a lot, but a lot happened. There was a few looks of lust.
That's quite right. In fact, that's quite well summed up. Not a lot happened, but a lot happened. So he unplugs Sharon's sink.
He does.
God, we're turning into Max and Rainie
all
territory.
The water went over him.
Sharon's sink gushed all over Keanu's
and her first
face.
suggestion was to take the top off Keanu.
Yeah, and handed him over a tea towel to dry himself off. And her eyes could not look anywhere, could they? She was desperately trying to look away. But
whose eyes could? That was a professional t-shirt takeoff shot, that was.
A professional?
The way he did it was like an action movie.
Oh, right.
I'm surprised they didn't get the slow motion cameras out for that.
You got the ones they used for Ronnie and Ronnie's
dance party
wedding, yeah.
But how did she dry his t-shirt?
Oh, I don't think it was ever explained. I suppose a tumble dryer.
Yes, but last week she went to the laundrette.
Oh, well, no, she went to the laundrette to have some shirts on. It was Denny's shirts for school, so I think she was
only
having
goes there for special occasions.
They were being specially pressed by Karen with her pressing machine, presumably
to keep
at
these
the back.
Things in check. You see,
well,
who has a tumble dryer and who doesn't on the square.
I mean, I think Sharon does go in there to do her laundry. Perhaps she has so much laundry. There's a lot of people in the house. It's a bit like the Slaters, I guess.
Yeah, I guess.
There's so many people in the house. They need to use more than one washing machine.
So that was the first hint towards their up and coming, what should we call it? Relationship.
Their affair. Sharongate. She mentions an old film from the 1970s, like it was a soft porn film, Confessions of a Window Cleaner.
Yeah.
And I think she seemed a bit upset. It was upset her a little bit that she obviously could reference this 1970s film.
Had no clue what she was
and Keanu was like, what are you talking about? And so Sharon's face kind of went from glee and excitement to,
like,
no, actually
I'm being a bit of a Michelle.
Nice.
A bit of a Michelle. So this leads up to her going to the Archers finally, just in time, because Dennis is being like pushed into a car where all these
carpet.
Oh yeah,
the garage pit.
but by this time Sharon's gone to the thing and Dennis is in a car, isn't he?
Yeah.
With the gang.
And Keanu's seen Sharon run past him while he was waiting for Hayley to get him a drink, because Hayley offered to go for a drink with him in the Vic. Free drink. She was stealing glasses from other people.
Yeah. So he ditched her, which was quite sad. But I'm kind of seeing Hayley and Keanu. I was seeing it as like maybe they could get together, but maybe just seeing it as actually just a guy and a girl who could be friends.
No, but Hayley wants them to get together.
I know, but like
Hayley's
that'd be quite nice, because people are never just friends, like a girl and a male and a female.
Yeah.
So that'd be quite nice if they were just actually, they just thought, oh, actually, let's just be mates.
Billy and Honey are just friends.
Well,
for the foreseeable future.
Not in Billy's eyes.
No.
So this is when Sharon lets off her full steam. She's shouting at the people in the car.
Yes, right. Now
She's
this
going
scene,
to break someone's face.
I loved this scene, actually. I really did.
Keanu comes running in to help.
Yeah, so Styx and Jagger are in the car pushing Dennis in, and Keanu pulls one out. All he does is clench his fist at his face, and the guy runs off. So Keanu's not punched anyone, and he tries to pull Dennis out, and almost like a tug of war, they're kind of struggling with one another to get Dennis. Poor old Dennis's arms must be like 5 feet long by the end of this. And in the meantime, Sharon, shouting at the top of her voice with a spanner in her hand, is like, "Come on, men! Come on!
Don't mess with me and my kids.
Don't mess with me and my kids. I'm going to smash your face in."
That's the Sharon we've been waiting for a while.
Now, I mean, we don't. After Dennis is saved, and she throws again a brilliant throw.
I know, she really throws it into
hits the bonnet of the car.
Yeah.
Good job.
They throw a can at her, but it doesn't hit Sharon.
I know.
She dodges it.
She always has to be the one.
Nifty.
She always has to be the winner. And there's a really well produced scene, I feel, that when Sharon's having a go at Dennis, because Dennis is dismissing it again. Dennis is like, "Oh, whatever."
Oh, he tells her to shut up.
Yeah, it's like, "Oh, shut up, Mum. You're embarrassing me." It's like, no. So she says some really quite harsh stuff to him. For EastEnders standards, she really went off on him. She calls him ungrateful, spoilt sod. And then she says she's had enough of his crap.
Yeah, well.
But then makes the grave mistake.
Oh, well, yeah, this is silly. Because he's literally just been nearly kidnapped in front of her and beaten twice. And she just goes, "No, you go straight home."
Yeah. Go back home now.
Well, I suppose because of the yelling she gave him, she knows that she's scared him that he'll just go straight home.
I don't think Dennis will had any doubt of going straight home. No. But it did have.
He could have they could be waiting around the corner still.
Exactly. They would have just driven round the corner, or they could have just done a big circle.
Yeah.
Anything could have happened to Dennis on his route, but
alas, she had other things on her mind.
She did, and Dennis did get home.
Well, he'd fixed Sharon's box as well.
He did. Well, he fixed it earlier. He was just kind of just fine tuning it, wasn't he, while he was waiting?
And Sharon's box just made me laugh. Sorry, I was going to say, and we go back to the scene of Keanu and Sharon not fixing her box. Is what I was going to say.
Right.
But they have like quite a little scene, and she sort of opens up to Keanu. Yeah. And she even mentions how she could never. She mentions Peggy in a line, saying how she can never keep up with Peggy to Phil, which I thought was a strange line.
No, I didn't actually. I wrote this down too, and if you think about it, this was the second person who'd spoken to Keanu about how they feel like they can never live up to Phil's standards. Dennis said it last week, and Keanu kind of felt sorry for him, so then stuck up for him and supported him. So this week, Sharon said the exact same thing, saying she can never be Peggy, she can never live up to the standards that Phil wants her to have. And again, Keanu feels sorry for her, which obviously leads to then him comforting her by
touch of the hand,
and gives her a quick peck on the cheek. And even though he just made a cup of tea for both of them, he then leaves. He then leaves the archers. And this overwhelms Sharon a little bit, doesn't it?
I know, she doesn't have one of her like looks and her smiles, and she can't quite believe it.
Well, is
it just the fact that someone's finally paying her attention?
Well, this is it. A few weeks ago, isn't it? She said that she used to have to fight men off left, right, and centre to Linda, which is what we said last week. And this week, she's now getting that attention. So I think, you're right. I think she ultimately always wants. She does love Phil, but I think this attention is getting her, as you would put it,
overwhelmed.
Her box filled. Her box of emotion.
Getting her music box playing.
She's getting her ballerina twirling.
So yeah, I'm assuming we're now into an affair storyline.
Not just yet. Not
Ish.
just yet.
Yeah, but it's getting there.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're right. I wonder if we're going to have Keanu and Hayley hook up and then have Sharon looking a bit jealous. But every now and then, Keanu always goes to Sharon when he sees that she's in need. And so he's having this relationship. Maybe he's going to have his cake and eat it. Have Hayley and Sharon.
Double portion.
Yeah.
Maybe. I mean, or is it going to be like a storyline where like Sharon thinks he's interested, but he's just being nice, and it turns out that she's
I
being
think
a bit
Keanu
made of a fool of, or
I think she will always be afraid. I think that's going to be one of the kind of
like whether she's seeing something that's not actually there, and then
yeah.
she tries it on with Keanu, and he's like, "What are you doing?"
I think you've hit the nail on the
Maybe.
head that she's going to always think that he's not interested. But I think he is interested. But I think he also feels I think he's almost. It sounds a bit bad for poor old Hayley, but I think he feels a little bit obliged to kind of put Hayley under his wing as well. He always feels obliged to do something, doesn't
Yeah.
he? So perhaps again he'll feel obliged to help Sharon, which would lead to. But anyway, we'll see who will make the first move now. Will Sharon move forward to Keanu?
I want her to phone Michelle.
Or for advice of how to get a younger
just
lad.
to talk to Michelle. I think she needs a little chat with Michelle. She needs to come back just for a Skype call cameo.
Oh, I'd like that. Yeah, why not?
Just to discuss this, because it's quite similar situations. But just going over onto Twitter for a few comments. Anika says, Sharon looking for Dennis everywhere except where he was last.
No, Anika's correct.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't quite
No
know.
one-
Like the writers kind of explained that by saying that he would never be at the Archers on his own. But honestly,
I
that would
know.
be the first place you'd look.
Demley just says, why is Sharon wearing a miniskirt?
But it's because that's what I mean. She was just proper dressed up, and then she had a little white trainers.
It was a
on.
miniskirt as well. Like,
It was really short, wasn't it?
when she threw the spanner and she lifted her leg up, you can nearly see everything.
Her box.
Her music box. Bovary C, she's back again.
Oh yeah, Bovary.
She said Phil told Sharon where he last saw Denny. Phil even gave her a heads up that morning and said they were going to the Archers. Why didn't she check there first? So, and
this is the
Nick-
main topic of
I know,
conversation.
it was. And Nick said, I can see this being all in Sharon's head and she is making it up and going to make a fool of herself.
Well,
So there's that possibility, but
I don't think she will feel. Again, ultimately, I think she'll feel that she's been humiliated, and or she felt like she's been a fool.
Especially the hard time she gave Michelle. She gave her a slap.
But then
that
Michelle
episode.
she was with a guy who was.
He wasn't underage though,
Yeah, but he's.
because it was in
at least-
America.
Mm,
So our next topic of debate, which is my least favourite couple on the square, Jack and Mel. They're
Yes.
on and off again, just basically on and off again all week.
Th- th-
Again.
Yeah. So, because as we mentioned earlier, Rainie and Max have been showing off, saying how much sex they're having recently. Mel's feeling a bit jealous, and so asks Jack to come over and have some warmed up food from last night over a romantic bottle of white and a candle.
And they're basically, throughout the week, they're just, the kids are getting in the way is basically what the storyline is.
It's basically Mel doesn't want to start a family again. She doesn't want
Mm.
to have a young family again. She's done it once with Hunter. She did it on her own.
Done it once.
She done yeah.
She's
She's
made
done
a
it
really
once.
bad job of it.
But she doesn't know that. She thinks Hunter's like
Yeah, that's
the
true.
sun beams out of his bum.
And Amy's sort of asking her questions like, are you going to be my new mummy and stuff?
Yeah.
And she doesn't think it's fair in case the relationship doesn't go where it should be going. But it's just a lot of...
Yeah.
Like, they just keep breaking up, and then someone's mad, and then the next day Jack's mad at Mel, then she takes him to the Vic, and then she's mad at him, and it's just like, for God's sake.
It's just a constant, isn't it?
So
It's
that's
going back-
basically summing up, that's what it is. And then we have that interesting bit towards the end of the week with Hunter is involved, because the restaurant is opening.
Well, first of all, Mel does break up with Jack because she doesn't want to be with him because of the kids, and this confuses Jack. And Jack says that maybe the kids are going to be in the way, but you have to understand that this was part of the deal when you first got together, which it was part of the deal. So I don't know what's happened between now and when Mel first decided to kind of push away his affections that's made her now suddenly become scared again. I mean, I suppose Amy saying, "Are you my new mummy?" is a bit weird and terrifying, but
That's what Amy is.
but yeah, basically, yeah, that's Amy.
But yeah, I mean, it's just I don't know.
But then Jack gets really angry. As you say, it's on, off. And Jack, first of all,
It's not the
Mel's-
best relationship. It's quite a new relationship, and they've been broken up about 5 times.
Well, because they both want different things.
Yeah.
And Jack even at one point says like, "Oh, I never thought I'd fall in love again since since Ronnie died." And it's like, well, I don't think you have fallen in love now. I think you just lust over Mel, and you like the idea of having this kind of prize on your arm, because that's all Jack is at the end of the day. Jack is this alpha male who wants, and I don't think he likes that Mel is a very strong, independent woman. I think that he will always try to be the man of the relationship. And
that's the trouble, isn't it? Although Ronnie was quite a strong woman, but their relationship was a bit.
She was strong when she was first introduced, but her character weakened and weakened and weakened, and she made so many silly mistakes that I think in Jack's head he was always, the better person. But at the end of it, while Mel hasn't been in the soap quite long enough to show any. Well, she was in it before, but then she's come back, so almost the slate has been wiped clean, and so now
clean slater.
So it's the opportunity for her to be this new character again. But she's being, as you quite rightly said, she's being basically outplayed as usual by her son Hunter.
Because they then make up again, and then they want to go to the restaurant, but that doesn't work out because of the kids. So he says, I can have a takeaway if that's okay, Mel. She's like, I don't mind.
Yeah, I don't mind. I've suddenly quite like having kids again.
Yeah.
Quick note, we should give a heads up also to the brand new Ricky.
Oh yeah, he's been swapped.
Yeah.
Which is nice, which means maybe Ricky will have a storyline soon.
Never know.
All they need to do is bring back the old Sam, the old/new Sam. The second Sam.
The second Sam, yeah, not the
Westbrook one.
Yes.
Bring back her.
Yeah, they should bring her back.
She's
I liked
great.
her a lot.
So yeah, new Ricky. That's fun for everyone. So yeah, they have this problem where they can't babysit, and Hunter says, "I'll babysit. I don't mind, Jack." And he's acting all nice to Jack now, even though they have this rivalry. So Jack takes their first chance of that and goes.
Of course he does, because again, it's
because kids mean everything.
Yeah, kids mean everything to Jack, apart from when he wants to get his lay.
He needs to keep up with his brother, doesn't he?
He does. It's a competition.
So Hunter just leaves them in the lounge watching a film and closes the door on them and sits on the stairs, and he gives a phone call to Ray.
Yes.
And sort of says to Ray, I know you're over Mel now and stuff, but she's got a new boyfriend, Jack, and he wants me to call him Dad.
Yeah.
And that seems to upset Ray on the phone.
He also says, and I really like Jack. He's a real sound guy. He's an ex-police officer.
Yeah.
He's really cool.
So obviously that's annoyed Ray.
Yes.
That someone's muscling in on Hunter, which we all know Ray is coming to the square soon.
Yes.
I'm assuming for the launch
of
it's going to be his first episode.
Walford East.
So it's finally happening. Yeah.
Do you reckon he's going to come with Jane? Because you mentioned on Twitter that you wouldn't mind a Jane and Ray relationship.
Not come together. Because with Ian's storyline, that's basically his whole storyline this week, is Masood had texted Jane or phoned or told Jane about and invited her to the restaurant opening. She phones Ian and he answers.
Yes.
So it's nice that he answered the phone to Jane this time.
Well, true. But he was very upset with Mass because he's invited her because he's obviously trying to get Mel.
Yeah, which is just another topic for another day.
Yes, I mean.
But I mean, yeah, I'd hope Jane does turn up. Maybe Ray turns up. 2 singletons.
Obviously Jane hasn't been announced as turning up, but this wouldn't be her first rodeo of just turning up unexpectedly.
I mean, the only other thing is that he could maybe turn up with his new girlfriend Ruby. Maybe.
I never thought of that.
But it'd be quite funny if he turned up and Jane did that, just to annoy Ian. Because Ian's obviously trying to get Mel.
I mean, poor Jane. She still hasn't had her.
I don't know
place
why
in the
Ian
sun,
is so angry that Jane has been called.
She just left, didn't she? They were meant to be going away on their plans, and then Max interfered, and then she just left.
They must have talked. There must be scenes they haven't shown us of them actually talking.
No, because she's only just messaged Masood.
Yeah.
She just messaged Masood. But you think that, again, why did Masood keep that quiet? Why didn't he say, I spoke to Ian today? I spoke to Jane today.
Things to himself, doesn't he? So that's something to look forward to, yeah.
Should we just quickly also talk about the Carmel having, basically, she only had a very quick scene in the pub where she opened Shaquille's AS level results.
She did.
And he reveals that he got an A in physical education.
Yay.
I mean, he wanted to...
I know, you would have thought it would be in music.
Yeah. Anyway.
Maybe, I don't know.
So
maybe that'll come in another letter.
Maybe. So they raised a glass to Shaquille as probably one last nod.
I was quite upset that Kush or Denise weren't there, though.
Yeah, that made no sense.
Like,
Cushion Denise should have been
That was
there.
silly. Like
Yeah.
her best friend Denise and her son.
Kim was there.
Yeah,
Masood
but
was
Denise
there.
wasn't.
Billy and Honey. But yeah, you know, this. I think
Yeah.
that was one last nod
Yeah.
to.
To Shaquille's legacy
to
of
Shaquille's
his
legacy.
A levels.
Yes, his AS levels. I don't want to sound like I'm
No.
picking, but it was an AS level. Right.
Let's
So
do a game then.
okay. Right, so it's my turn obviously this week, and I've brought back Martin Fowler's 5 a day. We do like this game.
Never
So-
left, did it?
So anyone who's new to the show, just to quickly go over the rules, I will ask Ben a question, and he must list 5 answers that relate to that question, and he has to answer as many as those 5 answers in 30 seconds. He must pause after every answer he gives for me to tell him if he's right or wrong. However, after the debacle two episodes ago where I was explaining too many of the answer whilst he was giving the answers, I will just say yes or no, and then we'll go back to them
Good.
later.
Wasting
Okay.
my time.
I know, I would never dream of doing that. Right, so here we go. This week's question. So dogs are a man's best friend, and on the square they are part of the landscape, and they have been from the very beginning. But how many dogs can you remember have been in EastEnders?
God.
So in 30 seconds, can you name 5 dogs that have been in EastEnders? They must have been in the soap for longer than a day, because there was one that
Was there?
died after a day. So we won't accept that one. And plus, I couldn't find any information on it. So yeah, in 30 seconds, you must name 5 dogs that have appeared in EastEnders from 1985 all the way to the present day. So all the way up until yesterday.
Okay.
Okay.
You just made me think of one, so that's good.
Right. So if you're ready, your time starts now.
Okay, I don't know if this is one. Rolly.
Yes,
Oh,
Rolly.
next one. Good. Willie.
Willie, yes.
Princess Di.
No.
Princess Diana.
No.
Lady Di.
Correct.
Wellard.
Yes.
Wellard 2.
No.
There was a second Wellard.
No.
There was.
No, not
Gus had
accepting it.
Oh, I don't know any others. Betty.
Yeah, there is one called Betty.
Oh, is there?
Yes. Well done.
That was a
Well
good
done.
guess.
Now,
Gus had a Wellard.
I don't think they called it Wellard 2.
Or was it the
though.
same Wellard?
I
Couldn't
think
be.
it's
It
the
couldn't be
same
that
Wellard. I
live
think
that
he
long.
inherited it.
Oh, I don't care. I won. So that's good.
Well done. Yes, this is the first. I think is it the first time? No, you've
Not
won
the first
before.
time ever. The first time in recent history that I've won.
Let me quickly go through the answers.
I don't know who Betty is. That was a guess.
If in doubt, Betty. So, Rolly was owned by Sharon Watts from 1985 to 1993. Willie was owned by Ethel from 1985 to 1992. Albert was owned by Pauline Fowler in 1986. She found it in the laundrette. It was a lost dog. She took it home, and Lou told her she couldn't keep it, so it had to be adopted out.
Shouldn't steal
Heathcliff.
dogs.
Heathcliff was owned by Graham Clark from 1987 to 1988. Snoopy, who was then later renamed Willie 2, was owned by Ethel, but then was inherited by the Mitchell brothers. We don't have dates for that, I'm afraid. Frida was owned by Grant Mitchell and Nigel Bates in 1993 to 1999. That was part of a plot where they bought a greyhound to win money, but it wasn't very good at it. A bit like Santa's Little Helper in The Simpsons. Wellard was owned by Robbie Jackson and Gus from 1994 to 2008. Terence.
1994 to 2008. So there must be 2 Wellards.
Yes, but there was
That's
never...
a long life for
It
one.
was always one Wellard, though. It's the longest serving dog in EastEnders. Terence was owned by Janine Butcher and Terry Raymond, then later Billy Mitchell, and then after that Pat Evans from 2001 to 2008. Genghis was owned by the Miller family from 2004 to 2008. Betty was Pauline Fowler's dog.
Oh,
Remember Betty was with her when she died?
oh
in the
yeah.
square.
The
He
little
was
thingy dog.
licking her face and going, ooh, ooh. So it was later inherited by Martin Fowler and Sonia Jackson from 2004 to
Where is he now?
2007. I don't know. In a boot, crushed somewhere. Chips was owned by the Bill family in 2006-2007. He went missing after Steve and Bill left the gate open.
I know that Abby had one, but I don't know the name.
We're getting there. Dalagesh was owned by Jack Edwards in 2006. Albert, which was the second Albert, but he was never called Albert 2, he was just called Albert, was owned by Roxy Mitchell from 2007-2009. Sugar, who had various owners, was in 2009. Now, this is an interesting one. Sugar was murdered by Lucas because Sugar, this is genuine, Sugar was the only witness to him burying Owen Turner's body. So
What?
in case Sugar was able to tell the
Like
police...
Black Mirror.
It is. Gumbo was owned by Bradley Branning in 2009. Tramp was Abby Branning's dog from 2013 to 2015. And then the two that are still here today is Lady Di, not Princess Di. Lady Di, Carter Family 2013 to present. And Bronson, who has later been recast.
He has.
From 2017 to present. So how did you guys get on? I hope you got a few more than Ben, who struggled to get 5.
I got 5 and that was the rules. So.
And that was Martin Fowler's 5 a day.
Another win for me.
We were keeping record.
Make that 2.
Yeah, we were keeping record of them, but I lost that sheet, so we kind of just...
It's very difficult.
It's tough.
So we're going to do the poll of the week then.
Yes, so as always, the poll of the week is put up on Monday's episode when it's broadcast in the UK on our Twitter. This week we asked, Sharon successfully draws Keanu's attention with her plumbing problems. So what could Hayley do to gain his affections back? The answers, or alternative answers you could have said was say, all right, cheerfully.
All right.
Excellent. Buy him a new hat, because obviously she used it to smear some bird poo. Polish his tools, not a euphemism. And knock him down in a cab. So all feasible,
Polish his tools.
answers. Is that what you think?
Yeah.
You always get the second most popular one. So
I didn't
yes.
vote this week, actually. I forgot.
You should have voted and could have, lent the poll a little bit
Yeah.
one way. So the most popular answer was say all right cheerfully. Which
That's keeping in character.
I know, I thought that was quite a nice one as well. Normally people go for the most abstract.
Hit him with a cab.
Yeah. Polish his tools was second. Knock him down with a cab was third. And final with 12% was buy him a new hat. No one wants him to have a new hat.
No.
I mean, I've never seen...
It was a horrible hat, to be fair.
It was a bit of a basic hat. And also, he doesn't need a hat.
No.
He's fine without a hat. He's not got hair to tuck in or anything like that, has he?
He's got his perfectly shaped head. Let it all out. Sharon loves it, a shaved head.
Sharon does.
She's
She
always
likes to
gone
rub
for
it.
them, hasn't
She
they?
likes to rub it, feel the coarseness on her hands.
She's gone through Grant, Phil, and now Keanu.
Oh, that's true, isn't it? She likes
She's
the...
got a type.
Yeah.
Dennis had hair, but...
Dennis had quite lustrous hair, didn't he?
That was a bit different for her.
And that's the one she truly loved,
Mm.
really. Dennis was her one. It's always the one that's different.
Can you imagine if Sharon and Keanu get together and she makes him grow his hair out? That's a story.
I mean, is there pictures online of him with hair?
Yeah, he used to have hair when he was in Benidorm.
Oh,
He
did
looks
he?
really weird. He looks like a Thunderbirds puppet with hair.
I can't imagine him with hair.
Wait, everyone has to look it up.
So, as always, you can always find our poll of the week. As I say, as Monday's episode is broadcast in the UK, we also live tweet during EastEnders as it's broadcast in the UK on a Monday, Tuesday, Thursday and Friday.
We do. And I also have to say,
Yes.
EastEnders official have been liking and commenting to us.
Yes,
so
you've been enjoying that, haven't you?
Hello, EastEnders.
Yes. Hello at EastEnders.
I'm glad we've been acknowledged.
Yes, we're here. So you can find us, if you want to comment or like or retweet any of our tweets, you can find us on Twitter at Eastenders Week. You can also find us on Instagram at Eastenders Weekly Podcast. You can find us on Facebook if you just search Eastenders Weekly. You can also email us eastendersweekly@gmail.com. Obviously, as we said before, we like to receive your comments, your tweets, and we always try to read them out on the show if we can. And we also like to say hello to our listeners too. It's great to hear back from you guys and hearing any kind of feedback of what you guys are enjoying and so forth.
Wonderful.
It is.
It is. I just wanted to double check. You're going out in a few minutes, aren't you?
Yes, I'm off to the shops.
Okay, cool. It's just that I've got a mechanic coming over to fix my plumbing.